I was still gripping the steering wheel when my daughter told me I didn't own my lake house anymore. "Dad, don't park," Alana said into her phone, her voice clipped rehearsed. "We're already here. It's complicated." The pines opened and the water flashed silver. My water, the lake that had kept me sane through the worst nights after Marina died. I eased up the gravel drive anyway. The porch light I'd installed with my own hands was on, warm, familiar, mine, and two shadows crossed behind the screen door like they'd just discovered a new toy. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. I killed the engine and listened to Minnesota breathe. Loons, wind, the old dock complaining to the waves. Then the front door swung wide and Alana stepped out in a white robe like she was checking on a guest. Kendrick hovered behind her, barefoot, a craft beer grin glued to his face. "Merton," he said, bright like a sales pitch, "we didn't think you'd make it tonight." "I own the place," I said. "That usually gets me past the driveway." Alana folded her arms. "Can you please not make this weird?" I laughed. It came out dry and mean. "Tell me how not to be weird while standing on my porch." "Okay, ground rules," she said, glancing at Kendrick as if she practiced the speech with him. "We promise to try a boundary conversation without explosions." "Explosions," I repeated. "You mean no?" Kendrick slid in. "Babe, let me, Mr. Merton. You barely use the house. We're trying to optimize." "Optimize," I said. "That a California word for theft?" "Merton," Alana snapped. "Don't be dramatic. Dramatic is for proposals in YouTube." I said, "This is a deed." She took a breath like a yoga instructor about to fix my life. "We've been talking to Corinne and Jonas. Their lease is up. It's not fair their one rent hike from living in an RV park. So you solve it by giving away something you don't own." "It's family," she said, chin up. "And this place is—" She flicked her hand at the timber beams, the stonework, the lake beyond. "Wasted." "Wasted? On me, the guy who laid the flagstones in August heat and put his wife's wind chimes up the day before her last surgery because she loved how they sounded in the north wind." I set my bag on the first step and felt the ache in my hands. Old contractor bones that still remembered which joist creaked. "Where's my key, Alana?" She looked at Kendrick. He looked everywhere else. Finally, she said, "We made copies." "We." I said, "You and the locksmith? Or you and your conscience?" Kendrick shifted, tried charming. "Listen, we brought groceries. We'll make you a plate to go if you're tired." "A plate to—" My voice went hard without permission. "This isn't a restaurant. It's my wife's last good day in a frame." Something flickered across Alana's face at the mention of Marina. For a second, the kid who used to braid her mother's hair was there. Then she shut the door on it. "You're making this harder than it has to be," she said. "We're being generous." "Generous," I said softly. "You kicked me off my porch." Kendrick exhaled, tired of pretending to be nice. "Let's cut it short. You're alone, Merton. We have a life. Corinne and Jonas need stability, and they'll actually use the place." The lake blew a cold breath up the hill. I thought of the stool by the window where Marina wrote lists of things she wanted to see one more time. The gulls that stole her sandwich and made her laugh when she couldn't find the strength to get mad. I thought of the ring I still wore in the quiet in my house since she left. "You want me gone?" I said. "I want you to be reasonable," Alana said. "Take a long weekend in Austin. Or go fishing with Lemuel. We'll text you when we're done." "When you're done, what?" I asked. "Transitioning," she said. The corporate word made me want to break something. "Getting Corinne and Jonah settled." "You can't settle people in a stolen house." "We're not stealing," she said, jaw tight. "We're reallocating." I stared at her. "You learned that in a podcast or a church?" "Merton." "Say, Dad," I said, "if you're going to rob me, at least do it like family." The silence was a long slap. "Dad," she said finally, quiet and cold. "Please leave." I looked past her shoulder, through my own front door, the framed photos, the ash bucket by the hearth, the canoe paddle with Marina's initials, hung like a benediction. "No," I said. Kendrick laughed under his breath. What's your plan? Sleep in the truck? My plan, I said, feeling something steal an old settle into place, is to unlock my door. Alana stepped sideways, blocking me, a stranger wearing my daughter's face. You can't be here tonight. And why is that? I asked, because that's when I heard it. The distant thrum of a minivan turning onto the county road. Tires crunching gravel like a clock starting. Headlights slid through the birches and painted the porch rails bone white. Alana didn't smile. She glowing. Because, she said, they're here. The van crested the hill and stopped at the foot of my steps. The passenger door opened. A woman stepped out with a quilt and a plastic plant like a hostage exchange. Meet Corinne, Alana said, voice bright and final. Welcome home. I didn't turn. I didn't breathe. I just reached for the key in my pocket, my key, and found only empty denim where it should have been. And then the minivan's back door slammed, and another voice, older, male, certain, called up the steps. Night, folks. Where do you want a bed? Corinne's voice was syrupy sweet, like she was stepping into a vacation rental. It's even prettier than Alana described, she said, clutching that fake fern like it meant something. Behind her, Jonas heaved 2 boxes marked kitchen onto the gravel, grunting like he'd just conquered territory. Let's get this inside before dark, he said, already climbing the porch steps like he owned the damn place. I planted myself in front of the door. Nobody's coming inside. Alana shot me that look she used to give when she was 16 and thought curfew was a human rights violation. Dad, don't embarrass me in front of them. Embarrass you? I snapped. You're handing out keys to strangers while I'm standing on my porch. Corinne tittered nervously. We're not strangers, Merton. We're family now. I turned on her. Lady, the only family I had was Marina and the kid who used to call me Dad without a smirk. Alana's eyes flashed, but Jonas clomped right up, breathing beer and arrogance. Look, Pops, he said, already fishing a shiny brass key from his pocket. We can do this easy or hard. But either way, this is happening. I stared at that key. My spare, the one I kept in a mason jar in the garage, tucked behind old nails. My stomach turned cold. You broke into my garage, I said slowly. No, Alana cut in. I borrowed. Big difference. Kendrick finally opened his mouth, voice slick as motor oil. This is a transition, Merton. Everyone wins. You don't have to drive up here anymore, and my folks finally get stability. That's your spin? Everyone wins. I said, except me. You'll adjust, Alana said flatly. Jonas slid the key into the lock. That sound, metal on tumblers, was like a knife in my ribs. He shoved the door open and whistled low. Damn, this is nice. Smells like cedar. Corinne swept past me, humming as she laid her plastic fern on Marina's old oak table like it was hers. Jonas lugged in a box. Kendrick followed, carrying a cooler, and Alana, my daughter, walked in last, turning off the porch light as if sealing the deal. I just stood there on the porch, fist trembling, heart hammering like a nail gun. I wanted to shout, wanted to drag them all out by their collars. But the image of Marina stopped me, her voice and memory. Don't shout, Mert. Think first. Always think first. So I stepped back into the shadows and let them cross the threshold. Let them settle. Let them think they'd won. I drove back to town that night in silence, headlights carving lonely ribbons through pine forest. At a gas station outside Duluth, I sat in the lot with the engine off, staring at my phone. Alana had texted, "Thanks for being mature about this. We'll talk later." I deleted it. The next morning I was in my lawyer's office. Papers on the desk. Statutes quoted. Options laid out. Marcus Chin didn't blink when I said, "My own daughter's trying to evict me." He just wrote faster. By noon, I was at Lemuel's place. His garage looked like NASA had crashed in rural Minnesota. Wires, drones, laptops, monitors. He looked up from a soldering iron and smirked. "Something tells me you're not here to borrow sugar. I need this house wired," I said. "Sensors, cameras, sound. The works." He raised an eyebrow. "Intruders?" "Worse," I said. "Family." His grin stretched wide. Oh, this is going to be fun. We started hauling boxes of equipment to my truck. Motion detectors, programmable LEDs, wireless speakers small as hockey pucks. Lemuel patted one like a pet. These babies will make them believe the house is alive. And for the first time since Marina died, I felt something other than grief. I felt fire. That night, I sat alone at my kitchen table in town. Paper spread out. My wedding photo on the wall. My daughter's smile in old frames mocking the stranger she'd become. And that's when headlights swept across my living room window. Not Alana's Subaru. Not Kendrick's truck. Bigger. Slower. A van. I walked to the door, opened a crack. A man stepped out, heavy-set, tool belt on, clipboard under his arm. He looked up at my house like he already owned it. "You Merton?" he called. I nodded. He lifted the clipboard. "Name's Riker. Hired to change your locks." The man on my porch didn't blink. Just shifted the clipboard against his chest and waited like he was dropping off a pizza. "Who sent you?" I asked. "Your daughter," he said simply. "Alana. Said you wanted all the locks replaced. Whole house, new keys." She prepaid half. I barked a laugh. "That's funny, because I didn't call you." He shrugged. "Buddy, I just go where I'm paid." I stepped onto the porch, close enough to smell the gasoline on his jacket. "Let me make this simple. If you put one tool on that door, you'll be explaining yourself to the sheriff." Riker's jaw tightened. "Look, man, I don't need drama." She showed me proof of residency. "Proof." My voice cracked sharp. "That's my house. Deeds are my name. You change those locks, you're an accessory to trespass." He hesitated. That was my opening. "Here's what you're going to do," I said, lowering my voice. "You're going to get back in that van. You're going to tell my daughter this job was a mistake. And if you don't, I'll have my lawyer file papers with your company so fast your boss won't know what hit him." His eyes darted, calculating. Finally he muttered, "Fine, not worth the hassle." He stuffed his clipboard under his arm, stomped back to van, and drove away without another word. I watched the taillights vanish down Main Street. My hands were shaking, but my gut felt steady for the first time in days. They were escalating. Good, because so was I. The next morning I was back at the lake house with Lemuel. He was lugging spools of wire like a kid at Christmas. "Motion sensors here, here, and here," he said, pointing like a general on a battlefield. "Once they step inside, the system goes live. Lights, sound, water, all automated." I smiled. Let's give them a night they'll never forget. We worked until dusk, running cables behind baseboards, mounting cameras in corners, syncing speakers with Lemuel's tablet. He showed me how a single tap could flood the house with voices, shadows, even strobe effects. "Think of it like Disneyland," Lemuel said, "except it hates you." By nightfall, the house was no longer a house. It was a stage, and I had become the director. 2 days later, I sat in my pickup outside the hardware store when my phone buzzed. Text from Alana. "Corinne and Jonas move in Sunday. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I typed back one word, "Noted," then deleted her number from my contacts. Inside the store, I bought a new padlock for the boathouse and some fresh batteries. On the way out, I ran into Pastor Green from the local Lutheran church. He squinted at me. "Merton, you doing all right? Folks say your daughter's been staying up at the lake place." I forced a smile. "Just family stuff, Pastor. You know how it goes." He nodded slowly. "Family's tricky, but a man's home, that's sacred." I gripped his hand. "You don't know how right you are." Saturday night, the eve of their so-called move-in. I sat in the dark living room of my lake house, coffee cooling in my hand. The cameras were live, the sensors armed. The app glowed on my phone like a loaded gun. Outside, the lake was black glass, quiet, waiting. At 11:47 p.m., headlights flickered across the far tree line. A vehicle slowed, crept along the gravel road, then rolled into my driveway. I leaned forward. Not the minivan. Bigger, boxier, a moving truck. Doors slammed. Voices carried. I tapped into the outdoor mic. "Keep it down," Kendrick hissed. "We're not supposed to be here till tomorrow." Alana's voice snapped back. Dad's not coming. I told you, he gave up. Then Corinne laughed, sharp and giddy. Perfect. We'll surprise him by being all moved and before sunrise. Keys jingled. The lock clicked. The front door creaked open. I tightened my grip on the phone. My thumb hovered over the execute button. And then, just as the last box thumped over the threshold, I heard Jonas say the words that made my blood run cold. Don't worry. Once this is ours, we're selling it. Sell it. My voice caught in my throat, though I hadn't spoken out loud. I leaned closer to the monitor, watching Jonas drop another box onto my hardwood floors. Alana followed with a smug little smile, like she'd just closed escrow. This place will bring a fortune on the market, Jonas said. Lakefront, double lot, already updated. We sell, we buy 2 condos in the city. Boom. Everyone wins. Everyone. Corinne chirped. Except him. They all laughed. My family. My blood. I swallowed the rage. Let it burn clean through my chest. They thought I was finished. They thought I was weak. That was good. Let them believe it. Kendrick shut the door behind them, sealing my house like a tomb. From my pickup parked a mile down the road, I tapped the tablet Lemuel had synced for me. Camera feeds glowed like crystal balls. Every room. Every angle. I watched Corinne set her fern in the kitchen window. Jonas cracked a beer from my fridge without asking. Alana walked through the living room, dragging her fingers along the walls like she was taking possession. Kendrick leaned against a banister and said, "Feels good, doesn't it?" "Feels permanent," Alana said. That was my cue. I tapped one button. The entryway light flicked off. On again. Off again. Jonas frowned. Breakers bad? Kendrick shook his head. Old house. Probably nothing. I tapped again. The upstairs hallway light began strobing, pulsing like a nightclub. Corinne gasped. "What is that?" Alana forced a laugh. Dad must have messed with the wiring. Ignore it. I leaned back in my truck, let a slow smile curl. This was only the appetizer. The next hour, I let them get comfortable. They unpacked clothes, stacked boxes, even spread a quilt on the bed Marina and I had shared. That one hurt, but only sharpened me. At 1:12 a.m., when all 4 were inside and the house was quiet, I armed the full system. It began with the water. Faucets hissing to life in the kitchen and both bathrooms, steaming like the house itself was sweating. Jonas shouted, "What the hell?" Then the voices kicked in. My speakers bellowed from the rafters. "You are not the owners of this house. Leave immediately." Corinne shrieked. Kendrick ran for the breaker panel. Alana just stood in the living room, mouth open, eyes wide. "Dad," she whispered. I almost answered through the mic. Almost. But I didn't. Instead, I unleashed Phase 2. Projectors hidden in the corners flickered to life, casting dark shadows that crept across the walls. Figures pacing. Faces stretching. Ghosts in my hallways. "Jesus Christ," Jonas yelled. He bolted for the door, but the lock clicked shut. Program delay, 30 seconds of panic. He pounded on the knob like a trapped animal. Kendrick cursed from the basement. "Power's fine. Nothing's shutting down." The voice repeated, louder. "Intruders will be removed." Alana spun in circles, clutching her head. "This isn't possible. This isn't." Her words cut off when every light in the house exploded into strobe. White, red, blue, a storm inside the walls. They stumbled, blinded, while whispers slithered from the speakers. "Get out! Get out! Get out!" Corinne collapsed on the couch, sobbing. Jonas dragged her up, yelling, "We're leaving, damn it!" Finally, the front door clicked open. They poured outside like rats from a sinking ship, gasping in the cold night air. I thought they'd run straight for the truck. But Alana didn't move. She stopped on the porch, chest heaving, eyes locked on the darkness beyond the yard. And then, in the glow of the porch light, she screamed words that froze me where I sat. "Dad, I know you can hear me. If you don't stop this, I swear." She didn't finish, because headlights flared on the road, sweeping across the yard. A second vehicle pulling in. Not theirs. I zoomed the camera. A county sheriff's cruiser. The red and blue lights washed over the pines like a warning from God himself. My gut nodded as the sheriff's cruiser rolled to a stop behind a moving truck. I ducked lower my pickup a mile down, phone in hand, live camera feeds glowing. Deputy Carlson climbed out, adjusting his duty belt. I knew him. He'd ticketed me once for rolling through a stop sign near town. Good man, steady eyes, but not someone you could bluff with easy words. Alana rushed down the porch steps like salvation had arrived. Deputy, thank God you're here. Corinne stumbled after her, still clutching that damn plastic fern, sobbing. The house is possessed. Oh Lord, it's haunted. Carlson raised a hand. Slow down, ma'am. Start from the top. Kendrick barged forward, voice booming. The lights, the water, the voices. This place is trying to kill us. Jonas jabbed a finger toward the porch. Somebody set this up. Some sick game. We need this house safe. It's ours now. That last line made Carlson stiffen. Hold up. This property belongs to Merton. Everybody in town knows that. Alana's voice sliced through the night. Not anymore. My father gave us permission. Ask him. Carlson frowned. Where is he? Alana hesitated, scanning the trees like she could sniff me out. He's hiding, she said finally. Watching us. He did this. Carlson's hand drifted near his radio. You're saying your father staged a haunting? Yes. Alana shouted. He's tormenting us. He's obsessed, unstable. You have to make him stop. I gripped the steering wheel of my truck. So hard the leather creaked. Unstable. Obsessed. She was building a record, twisting me into a lunatic. Carlson looked at the house. The porch light flickered once. Right on cue. Lemuel's programming flawless. The deputy's brow furrowed. All right, I'll take a look. He stepped onto the porch. My app buzzed in my hand. One button away from unleashing another round of chaos. I hovered my thumb over execute. But if I fired it now, I'd spook the wrong man. Carlson wasn't my enemy. So I waited, watching him push open the door and step inside. The others huddled on the lawn, whispering. Once he sees it's dangerous, he'll shut Dad down legally. Alana hissed. Damn right, Jonas muttered. Then we can move in without him lurking. Corinne wiped her eyes. He's gone too far. He's cruel. Cruel. The word landed like a nail in my chest. For 3 years I'd paid their bills, written checks, bent until I snapped. And now I was cruel. Carlson reappeared a minute later, shaking his head. House looks normal. No lights flickering. No water running. No voices. Kendrick's face drained. What? No, it was happening. You saw it. Carlson narrowed his eyes. What I saw is a group trespassing after midnight with a moving truck. The silence cut like glass. Alana stepped forward, desperate. Deputy, please, my father's manipulating everything. He's dangerous. Carlson adjusted his hat. I'll talk to Mert myself. But until then, you're leaving this property tonight. Clear. Jonas opened his mouth, but Carlson's hand rested on his holster, and that shut him right up. Fine, Alana spat. We'll go. They started shoving boxes back into the truck, muttering curses about me. I leaned back in my seat, relief washing through me, until the deputy's headlights swung wide on his way out. For just a second, the beam caught my truck parked deep in the turnout. Carlson slowed. Then he stopped. My phone buzzed with a new camera alert. Front driveway motion detected. I glanced at the feed and froze. Another vehicle had pulled in behind the moving truck, black SUV. Tinted windows. 2 men stepped out. Not neighbors. Not family. Strangers. One of them popped the trunk and pulled out a pry bar. The SUV door slammed shut like gunshots. 2 men in dark jackets walked toward my porch, boots crunching gravel, pry bar gleaming under the sheriff's fading lights. Carlson noticed immediately. Evening, fellas, he called, hand resting near his holster. You here on official business? One of them smirked. Something like that. The other just kept walking, shoulders thick as a linebacker. Alana ran to intercept, voice sharp. Wait, they're with us. I hired them. My stomach dropped. Hired them? For what? Carlson's tone hardened. Hired them for what exactly, ma'am? To secure the house, Alana shot back. Dad's been sabotaging everything. We need professionals too. Carlson cut her off. You brought in muscle to break into your father's property? Jonas puffed up. It's our property now. Carlson squared his stance, voice cold. That's not how deeds work. The bigger man raised the pry bar casually, tapping it against his palm. We can settle this faster, without the law involved. My chest tightened. This wasn't squabbling family anymore. This was escalation into something mean, dangerous. Carlson drew himself taller. Set that tool down, son. For a beat, nobody moved. Then the first man sneered. Lady said she wants us here. Lady's word is good enough for us. Alana looked at Carlson, eyes blazing. Deputy, you can't stop them. My father's unstable. This is protection. Carlson's hand slid closer to his sidearm. Last warning. This is Merton's property. You touch that door, you're under arrest. The bigger man stared him down and laughed, low and ugly. From my truck, I felt my thumb hovering over execute. One tap, and I could unleash hell again. Lights, voices, water, chaos. But if I did it now, I risked spooking Carlson too. The deputy was the one decent man standing between me and outright invasion. So I held. The men shifted, backing off just slightly. Not surrender, more like calculation. Jonas muttered, Forget it, we'll deal with that another way. Carlson exhaled, lowering his hand from the holster. Good choice. Now all of you clear out. Reluctantly, they started piling into the moving truck and SUV. Corinne whining. Kendrick cursing under his breath. Alana glaring into the night, like she could burn me alive with her stare. Carlson watched until the last taillight vanished down the road. The forest swallowed the noise. Silence again. Then, unexpectedly, he turned his gaze straight at my turnout. My stomach flipped. The cruiser's headlights clicked off. A moment later, a flashlight beam cut through the trees, sweeping across brush and gravel. Getting closer. I shut off my phone screen, heart pounding, and slid lower in the seat. Crunch. Crunch. Carlson's boots on gravel. Evening, Merton, he said into the dark. Calm. Certain. Like he knew damn well I was sitting there. I didn't answer. The flashlight beam landed directly on my windshield. I raised a hand to block it. Carlson stepped closer, his face half in shadow. Thought I'd find you watching, he said quietly. You want to tell me what's going on before I file my report? I opened my mouth, but before I could speak, my phone buzzed violently in my lap. Another motion alert from the house cameras. Carlson noticed. What's that? I glanced at the feed. My blood ran cold. In the grainy infrared, a lone figure was moving through the kitchen window. Not Alana. Not Kendrick. Not Jonas. Someone else had slipped inside my house. And they weren't carrying boxes. They were carrying a gun. The flashlight beam trembled across my windshield, but Carlson didn't notice the way my hands froze around the phone. There on the camera feed, kitchen view, grainy infrared, was a figure slipping across my tile floor, pistol gleaming as they moved with predator's patience. Carlson leaned in. Merton, talk to me. I swallowed hard. Somebody's in my house. He blinked, skeptical. Your family again? I turned the screen toward him. The figure bent low, sweeping corners, gun out like they'd trained for it. Does Alana look 6'2" with a shaved head? Carlson cursed under his breath. Stay here. He spun back toward his cruiser, radio crackling. Unit 7 requesting immediate backup at Merton Lake property. Possible armed intruder. I climbed out of the truck, voice sharp. You can't go in blind, deputy. That house isn't normal anymore. He froze. What do you mean? I hesitated. How do you explain you've turned your lake home into a high-tech haunted fortress? But the truth tumbled out. Sensors. Lights. Voices. It'll fight back. I programmed it. Carlson's jaw tightened. So Alana wasn't lying, you rigged the place. I rigged it to scare squatters, I said. Not for a man with a gun. The sound of glass breaking cracked across the night. My stomach flipped. Living room window. Carlson sprinted toward the porch, weapon drawn. I followed without thinking, phone in hand, feed jittering as the cameras tracked the intruder. Inside, the figure's shadow stretched across the wall. He moved with purpose, opening cabinets, checking drawers. Not random. He was searching for something. Freeze. Carlson barked from the doorway, flashlight cutting through the dark. The man spun, pistol leveled. For 1 second, time froze. 2 weapons locked on each other, my whole world balancing on a hair trigger. I slammed my thumb down on execute. Every light in the house erupted, strobing red, blue, white. Faucets gushed. Hidden speakers roared. Intruder alert. You are trespassing. The gunman cursed, blinded. Carlson shouted, "Drop it! Drop it now!" But the man didn't drop. He bolted deeper into the house, vanishing into the flashing chaos. Carlson swore, chasing him toward the hallway. I stumbled after, ears ringing from the voice system, water pouring, lights pulsing like a police raid. The cameras flicker on my phone as the intruder ran upstairs, heavy boots pounding. "Attic!" Carlson yelled. "He's heading up." I should have stayed back. But every instinct, every year of building the house with my own hands, screamed at me, protect it. Protect Marina's memory. Protect my last anchor. I gripped the banister, climbing fast, lights slashing across my face. The system wasn't designed for allies. It treated us all as threats now, whispering from the walls, shadows dancing across ceilings. At the top of the stairs, Carlson raised his pistol. "Come down." Last warning. The intruder silhouette filled the hallway, gun still up. Then, in a voice low and steady, he said something that froze my blood more than the weapon ever could. "I'm not here for the house. I'm here for Merton. I'm here for Merton." The words cut sharper than the gun glinting in the strobe. My name in his mouth, cold and deliberate. Carlson squared his shoulders, pistol raised. Dropped the weapon, hands where I can see them. The intruder smirked, shadows flashing across his face. "Deputy, you really think you're part of this? Step aside before you get hurt." Carlson didn't flinch. Last warning. I stood half-hidden on the stairwell, heart pounding, eyes glued to the feed on my phone. Sensors triggered in sequence. Water pouring in the upstairs bathroom. Projections casting moving silhouettes along the hallway walls. The system was working too well. The house looked alive, angry. The gunman glanced around, unnerved but not rattled. "Cute tricks, Merton. You always did like to build things. But you can't build your way out of this." "Always did?" My throat closed. He knew me. "Who the hell are you?" I demanded. The man's eyes snapped toward the stairwell, found me in the pulsing light. "You don't recognize me?" "Figures. Rich contractor, like you never remembers the men he leaves behind." Carlson shouted, "Gun down! Now!" The man ignored him, taking a slow step forward. "Name's Kendrick's uncle. Lemuel's old buddy. Call me whatever you want. Doesn't matter. What matters is you owe people. And I collect debts." Kendrick's uncle? My mind reeled. Lemuel's name twisted in there too. Like this man had ties closer than I realized. My phone buzzed with another alert. Basement sensor tripped. There was more than one. Carlson must have read the change in my face. "Merton, what's happening?" I shook my head. "He's not alone." The system speakers boomed again. "Intruders detected. Leave now." But instead of running, the gunman laughed. "Go ahead. Flood the house. Blind me with lights. You can't automate bullets, Merton. And when I'm done, you'll wish you'd just signed the papers and walked away." Carlson advanced, steady as stone. "Drop the gun." The intruder raised his weapon, not at Carlson this time, but at me. Straight down the hallway, barrel catching the flash of red-blue light. I froze, back pressed to the banister. My thumb hovered over execute again, knowing the next sequence would unleash everything. Doors locking, water bursting, shadows writhing. But Carlson was in the blast zone too. If I triggered it now, I'd be throwing him blind against a live gun. The house groaned under the pressure of pumps and projectors. Shadows bent. Whispers crawled along the walls. The intruder sneered, finger tightening on the trigger. Carlson shouted and lunged forward. The gunshot shattered the hallway. For a split second, I didn't know who went down. The screen in my hand shook. Light strobed so fast the world was a blur of blood red and ghost white. Then the cameras caught it. Someone crumpled on the hardwood floor. Not the intruder. Carlson. The gunshot still rang in my ears. Carlson lay sprawled on the floor, his flashlight rolling until it threw a weak circle of light against the wall. Carlson. I shouted, stumbling forward. He groaned, clutching his shoulder, blood soaking through his uniform. Not fatal, God, I hope not, but bad enough. The gunman leveled his pistol at me again. Stay where you are, Merton, unless you want to make it worse. My house screamed around us. Faucets still running, lights strobing, whispers crawling like insects from the walls. It should have terrified him, but he stood there steady, like he'd been in worse places. I forced steel into my voice. Why me? Why this house? He smirked. Because you built your fortune stepping over men like me. Guys who broke their backs pouring your concrete, wiring your sites, hauling your lumber. You cashed the checks, we cashed in our spines. I shook my head. I always paid my cruise fare. Fair. His laugh was sharp. Fair doesn't fix foreclosure. Fair doesn't keep the bank from taking my brother's land. And your daughter? She came to us. Promised we'd all get a slice if we helped push you out. The words hit harder than the gunshot. Alana, she'd invited this. You're lying, I whispered. He tilted his head. Am I? Ask her. She's the one who said you caved like always. The one who told us there was no fight left in you. My chest ached like it might crack in half. My little girl trading me like property. Carlson coughed, voice hoarse. Don't listen, stall him. The gunman pressed forward, pistol steady. Time to finish this. You're going to sign the papers. Deed transfer, all neat and tidy. Or maybe you don't walk out of here. I forced a bitter smile. You think at first to underestimate me? With a flick of my thumb, I triggered phase 4. The hallway door slammed shut behind him with a hydraulic hiss. Bolts clamped. The speakers erupted. Security lockdown engaged. The gunman spun, rattling the door handle. Trapped, I stepped closer to Carlson, dragging him toward the stairs. Stay with me, deputy. The intruder pounded on the door, fury spilling from his throat. You think this cage saves you? I've got people outside. You can't trap all of us. My phone buzzed in my hand. New camera alert. I glanced down and my blood iced over. On the basement feed, another figure moved through the dark. Slimmer. Quicker. Carrying something long and metallic. The system's microphone picked up a whisper, high and unmistakably female. Dad, open up. It's me. Alana. She was inside the house. And in her hands, God help me, was a shotgun. Her voice slithered through the speakers, caught by the basement mic. Dad, it's me. Open up. Alana. For 1 second, everything else. The blood soaking Carlson's shoulder, the gunman pounding against the locked hallway door. The chaos of lights and water faded. All I heard was my daughter, the same girl who once asked me to check under her bed for monsters. Now she was the monster. Carlson groaned beside me. Merton, what did she say? I couldn't answer. I just stared at the phone feed. Alana creeping through the basement. Shotgun barrel gleaming under the emergency lights. She looked wired, jittery. Not afraid, determined. The lockdown gunman upstairs bellowed. She's in, isn't she? Told you she was with us. Now you've got no way out. I muted the upstairs feed, heart hammering. My own daughter had crossed a line I prayed she'd never touch. I switched to the basement cam. Alana, stop this, I said into the mic. My voice echoed from the speakers around her. She froze, eyes snapping to the ceiling. I knew it, she hissed. You are running the circus. You brought a shotgun into my house? I asked, into your mother's house? Her jaw clenched. It's my house now. You just don't get it. No, I said. I get it. You sold me out. To strangers with guns. She shifted the weapon higher, scanning corners like she expected me to step out of the walls. They're not strangers, they're family now. More than you are. Carlson coughed, his blood leaving streaks on the floor. Don't let her pull the trigger, Merton. I leaned over him, whispering, Stay down. This is mine. I tapped another sequence on the tablet. The basement lights cut out, plunging her in black. A heartbeat later, the projectors cast shadows of moving figures against the walls, tall, skeletal, pacing closer. Alana's breathing hitched, but she held her ground. You think I don't know these are just tricks? You can't scare me out, Dad. Not anymore. Then she raised a shotgun at one of the shadows and fired. The blast thundered through the house. Wood splintered. The system recalibrated. Alarms wailing. Upstairs, the trap gunman shouted, "That's her. She'll do it. She's not afraid." I killed the alarm, voice shaking through the speakers. "Alana, listen to me. You pull that trigger again, you don't just lose this house. You lose me. For good." Her voice cracked. "You already lost me, Dad." She pumped a shotgun, shell clattering on the floor. "All you had to do was give it up. Sign the deed. But no, you had to make it war." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I didn't start this war, sweetheart, but I'll damn sure finish it." I armed Phase 5. A low hum built to the floorboards as every lock in the house engaged, sealing her inside with the shadows. She spun, panic flashing. "What are you doing?" I leaned close to the mic, voice steady. "Teaching you about consequences." And then, before I could unleash the next wave, the camera feed jolted violently. The screen filled with static. I tapped, swiped, reset. Nothing. A different feed flickered alive, outside, through the driveway cam. Headlights cut across the yard. A third vehicle rolled in slow and quiet. Dark van, plates covered. 3 figures stepped out, dressed in black, moving like men who'd done this before. Not Alana's hired thugs. Not family. Something worse. And one of them was carrying a jerrycan of gasoline. The driveway feed glowed on my phone. 3 men in black stepping from a van. One sloshing a jerrycan like it was just another tool. My lungs froze. Gasoline. Carlson groaned beside me, voice weak. Merton talked to me. I showed him the screen. His eyes widened. "That's not your daughter's crew. Those are pros." The trap gunman upstairs bellowed, fist slamming against the locked door. "They're with us. You're done, old man. You hear me? Done." Alana's voice crackled from the basement speakers, shrill and defiant. "Dad, you can't stop this. Even your tricks won't save you now." The house shook with her shotgun racking another round. Outside, the strangers fanned out. One headed for the propane tank by the garage. Another started splashing fuel along the porch. The third scanned the tree line with something that glinted like night vision goggles. They weren't here to squat. They were here to burn me out. Carlson tried to push himself upright, but sagged against the wall. "Radio need backup." I grabbed his mic and hissed into it. "Unit 7 is under attack. Multiple armed suspects. Attempted arson at Merton Lake property. Send everyone you've got." Static answered. The line was dead. Jammed. The realization hit like ice water. These men had cut comms. No help was coming. Not yet. My hand tightened on the phone. My system wasn't built for fire, but it was built for intimidation, and I still had control. I tapped the sequence. Outside floodlights exploded to life, blinding the men in black. The speakers roared from hidden corners of the yard. "Warning. Illegal entry detected. Authorities notified." The one with the goggles snarled and waved his hand. They didn't scatter. They regrouped. Professionals. Inside, Alana screamed over the din, "Dad, stop. You're making this worse." Worse. I spat into the mic. "You brought a war into my house. You don't get to call it worse." Another shotgun blast thundered from the basement, ripping into a projector. Spark showered. The system stuttered, but held. Carlson grabbed my arm, blood on his lips. "Merton, you've got to end this. Either push them out now, or..." He didn't finish. Through the outside feed, the man with the jerrycan bent to splash fuel against the porch steps. The other 2 pulled pistols, scanning the windows. One of them shouted to the trap gunman upstairs, "Hold tight. We're lighting it." My blood roared in my ears. Marina's house. The last piece of her in this world. They'd torch it without a second thought. I stabbed my thumb against the app. Sirens wailed through every speaker outside, red strobes blasting like squad cars. The men faltered, just for a second, looking at each other. That second cost me. The camera feed jolted, static washing the screen. One by one, my outdoor cams blinked out. Black squares replaced them. They weren't confused. They were cutting my system apart, piece by piece. Carlson rasped, "They're inside your wires." The last camera to go dark was the porch. I watched the gasoline man strike a match, flame blooming bright in the night. Then static. Every monitor in my hand went black. And in the silence that followed, the smell of smoke crept under the front door. The first curl of smoke wasn't just in the air, it was in my throat. Acrid, bitter. My stomach dropped as flames licked across the porch outside, glowing orange through the strobing chaos of my system. Carlson tried to lift himself, his face pale. "Merton, they'll burn you out. You need to get out." "Out!" I snapped. "This is my house. My wife's house. I'm not running." Upstairs, the trap gunman slammed his fist against the locked door. "Light it up. Burn him out if you have to." From the basement, Alana screamed, "Stop it. Dad, make it stop." I checked the tablet. Half my feeds were dead, fried by the intruder's cutting lines outside. But the basement camera still showed Alana, sweat plastering her hair, shotgun clutched tight, eyes wild. I hit the mic. "Alana, listen to me. They're going to torch the place. You think you'll inherit ashes." She spun toward the ceiling, voice cracking. "It's not supposed to be like this. They promised no one would get hurt. Promises from criminals." I said, "That's who you trust now?" Her grip faltered for just a second. Then she screamed, "You made me do this. You and your control. You'd rather scare me than love me." Control. The word cut deep. Maybe she believed it. Maybe that's what made it hurt more than the flames. Carlson coughed blood onto his sleeve. "Merton, we don't have long. Fire'll take the stairs first." I pressed my hand to banister, felt the vibration of boots below. The fire wasn't just outside, it was seeping under, feeding on the wood. I tapped a new command. Sprinklers overhead hissed to life, drenching us both. Water poured, mixing with smoke, creating a choking steam. Carlson winced, but gave me the ghost of a grin. Smart man. But the relief was short. My phone buzzed, new motion detected. Living room. The outside door creaked. The black-clad men had forced their way in, slipping past my dying system. Shadows moved across the walls. Heavy, deliberate. They weren't spooked. They were hunting. I whispered into the mic, "Alana, they're not here for you. They'll kill anyone in their way. That includes you." Her voice cracked through the speakers. "Closer now. Then get out of my way, Dad." A shotgun blast rattled the basement ceiling. Plaster rained down. Carlson tried to push himself upright, gun trembling in his hand. "We hold the stairs. It's our only chance." But before I could steady him, another sound cut through the chaos, one that froze me to the marrow. Not flames, not water, not Alana's sobs. A baby's cry. High, sharp, desperate, echoing from the living room camera feed before it fizzled into static. Carlson's eyes snapped to mine. "Merton, you hearing that?" The hairs on my arms stood straight. Alana didn't have a child. Neither did Kendrick. There shouldn't be anyone. And yet the cry came again, louder, raw, shaking the walls of my burning house. I stared at the dead feed, my throat dry. "God help me," I whispered. "What are they bringing here?" The cry split the air again, shrill and thin, cutting through the hiss of sprinklers and the roar of fire. Carlson pressed a bloody hand to his ear like he couldn't trust it. "Merton, that's a baby. There's a baby in here." "There can't be," I shot back. My voice cracked. "It's impossible." But the sound came again, closer this time, as if the child were in the very living room where flames licked the windows. Alana screamed from below. "Dad, do you hear it?" I swallowed, my mouth dry. "Stay down there." Her voice broke into sobs. "They told me they wouldn't. God, tell me they didn't." The upstairs gunman rattled the locked door, laughing cruel. "Now you can't flood us out, old man. Not with a kid inside." The words landed like stone. A baby meant leverage. A baby meant I couldn't unleash the full system. Couldn't drown them with sound and water. Couldn't drive them out with shadows. Carlson dragged himself to the wall, his pistol trembling in his bloodied hand. "Merton, If that cry's real, you got one priority now, get out. The house shuddered. Boards groaned. Smoke crept lower. And that helpless cry came again, weaker now, like lungs giving out. I tapped into the one camera feed left in the living room. Static flickered. Then an image swam into focus. A black duffel bag, left on my rug. The zipper partly open. Inside, squirming, red-faced, screaming, an infant wrapped in a thin blanket. My heart stopped. They brought a baby. I whispered. Carlson's eyes went wide. What kind of animals? The upstairs thug bellowed again. You hear it, Merton? You gonna let it roast? Or are you gonna open this door and give us what we want? I gritted my teeth, thumbs shaking over the tablet. They'd escalated from greed to human shields. And the sickest part? They'd use a child. I keyed the mic to the basement. Alana, listen to me. Did you know? Did you know they'd bring a baby in here? Silence. Then a whisper, raw, broken. I didn't. I swear to God, Dad, I didn't know. I wanted to believe her. Marina would have told me to believe her. But my gut clenched with doubt. Another crack of wood from outside, the fire spreading. Time running out. Carlson's voice rasped. You move now or that kid dies. No more waiting, Merton. Decide. I shut my eyes, drew one breath, then another. My system was built for fear, not rescue. But maybe, just maybe, I could bend it. I tapped a custom override Lemuel had shown me weeks ago. The sprinklers redirected. A torrent of water hammered the living room, drenching the duffel bag, buying the infant precious air. The cry grew stronger, sharper. Alive. The intruders upstairs cursed, realizing what I'd done. Carlson gripped my arm, whispering, Go. I'll cover you. I ran. Down the stairs, through the smoke, into the inferno of my living room. The baby's wail cut through the haze, guiding me. My eyes burned, lungs screaming, but I dropped the rug, grabbed the bag, yanked the child into my arms. Tiny, fragile, screaming against my chest. I turned, just as the front door crashed inward. The gasoline man stood there, face half lit by flames, pistol raised steady at my heart. And in his other hand, he held another duffel. Only this one wasn't crying. The baby squirmed in my arms, hot little fists beating against my chest, crying so hard its tiny lungs sounded ready to tear. Across the flames, the gasoline man grinned through smoke. His pistol never wavered. The second duffel dangled from his other hand, zipper half open, something heavy shifting inside. Put it down, old man, he barked. Or I dropped this one, too. I tightened my hold on the child, heart hammering. There's another? He smirked, nudging the bag with his boot. The dull clink of metal echoed. Not a cry this time. Not life. Just wait. What's in there? I demanded. Insurance, he said. Enough explosives to make this place a crater if you don't play nice. My gut dropped. It wasn't another baby. It was worse. Carlson's voice rasped from the stairs behind me, weak but steady. Merton, keep him talking. The gasoline man sneered. Sheriff Boy still alive? Shame, but not for long. I rocked the baby against me, trying to quiet its cries, but my voice cut sharp. You brought a child into this just to cover your bomb? You're monsters. From the basement, Alana screamed up through the smoke. Dad, what's happening? Stay down there. I barked. She didn't listen. Her voice rose higher, frantic. Is it true? Did they bring... Shut her up. The man snapped, his pistol jerking toward the basement door. I shifted, blocking his line of sight with my own body. You're not pointing that gun at my daughter. He smirked. Relax. We don't need her anymore. Just you. And the deed. Smoke thickened, sprinklers hissing overhead. My phone buzzed in my pocket. System warnings. Camera feeds going black one after another. My smart house was dying under fire and sabotage. The man swung the duffel onto the floor, kicking it closer. You've got 1 minute, Merton. Either sign everything over, or we all burn together, baby included. The child wailed louder, as if it understood. Carlson's voice hissed at my back. Merton, don't cave. You cave, we're all done. I gritted my teeth, sweat pouring down my face. You light this house, you die with us. He chuckled. You think I'm afraid of dying? Men like me died years ago. I'm just here to collect. And then from outside, headlights swept the yard, cutting through the smoke-stained windows. Engines. More than one. The gasoline man cursed under his breath. What the hell? Carlson coughed a bloody laugh. Back up. But my stomach turned cold as I squinted through the haze. These weren't county cruisers. No red-blue flash bars. Just two black pickups rolling in, windows tinted, men in the beds clutching rifles. Not cops. Reinforcements. The gasoline man's grin widened. Looks like the cavalry's here for me. And as he said it, the duffel at his feet began to tick. The tick from the duffel wasn't a sound so much as a verdict. Sharp. Icy. Absolute. Clock's running. The gasoline man said, pistol steady. Hand over the deed, Grandpa. 60 seconds and we all become a headline. The baby clawed at my shirt, wailing against my chest. Smoke curled low. Sprinklers hissed. My smart house coughed and sputtered like an animal on its last legs. Behind me, Carlson pressed himself to the wall, face ashen. Don't touch that bag, he rasped. Pressure switch or tilt sensor? You so much as breathe on it wrong. I know, I said. Through the broken window came the rumble of the two black pickups settling in my yard. Doors opened. Boots dropped. The men in the beds racked rifles with a chorus of metallic certainty. Not the cavalry I needed. The gasoline man's eyes glinted. 50. From the basement, Alana's voice tore up the stairs. Dad, please, I can help. I'll take the baby. Every part of me wanted to say no. But the clock ticked again, louder, and the child in my arms sobbed like a siren only I could hear. Up! I barked. Slow. She emerged from the smoke, coughing, hair soaked, shotgun hanging useless by the strap. She looked 12 and 40 at once. Put it down, I said, nodding at the gun. She let it clatter to the wet floor. The gasoline man's muzzle dipped toward her before snapping back to me. 40, he said. I shoved the crying bundle into Alana's arms. Her face cracked, shock, love, terror, like something human finally bulldozed through the greed. I've got you, she whispered to the baby, voice shaking. I've got you, I've got you. Back door, I told her. Hug the floor, crawl the hallway, take the pantry exit, straight to the boathouse. Don't look back. She blinked. What about you? I still live here, I said. Go. She hesitated, one heartbeat, and then she went scuttling low, the baby's cry fading toward the pantry. The gasoline man laughed. Cute. 35. Where's the deed, Merton? I straightened, water dripping from my hair into my eyes. You're late. He frowned. What? You came for something I can't give you. I reached into my back pocket, pulled a folded sheet, lawyer letterhead wet but legible, and held it up. I don't own this house anymore. His jaw twitched. The men outside paused, rifles hovering. Transferred on Monday morning, I said. Charitable trust. Ironclad. I've got lifetime use, nobody else. You kill me, you get nothing but ash and a murder charge. He didn't blink. You're bluffing. Ask the county recorder, I said. Oh, wait, you jammed the radios. 28. Even if that's true, he said softly, I still get paid to ruin your life. A floorboard screamed upstairs, the lock thug finally shouldering through the door. He staggered into the hall, gun up. Carlson tilted his pistol with his left hand, jaw clenched. Don't, I warned. Two guns beat one with a hole in his shoulder. The upstairs man grinned through the strobe. Tick-tock, old man. I wiped smoke from my eyes and flicked my thumb across the crippled tablet. Not much left, but enough, manual purge. A relay thunked in the walls. Every interior door popped on magnetic release. Somewhere, a valve whined. Outside, a rifleman shouted, Movement west side. Good. Look there. I took one step toward the duffel. Don't. The gasoline man warned, angling the pistol. Pressure switch. You lift it, we all meet God. So what's the play? I said. He shrugged. 20. You sign a useless paper, so the people who hire me think they won. Then I light this anyway. Or you don't sign and I light it while you beg. My laugh came out raw. You don't even know who hired you. He tilted his head. You think I asked names? A beat, then a razor smile. But your daughter did. A rip tore through me where ribs should have been. From the pantry came Alana's muffled scream. Not fear, command. Door. It's jammed. Of course it was. Heat warp. Swollen frame. 19, the gasoline man sang. I threw the tablet at the ceiling projector. It shattered, plunged us into a wet, smoke-choked gray. Shadow steadied. Headlights from the yard carved prison bars across my floor. 18. I looked at Carlson. He looked back, cop to contractor, man to man. Lake, he whispered. Get it to water. Can't lift it. Slide it, he said, eyes bright with fevered idea. You don't pick it up. You float it. The house groaned. A memory flashed, Marina laughing, as I flooded the mudroom, once fixing a pipe. Water rising. Things lifting that shouldn't. The old Cedar Hope chest had bobbed like a canoe. 17. I bolted for the kitchen. Kicked open the bottom cabinet. Ripped free the drawer face. Jammed it under the duffel like a sled. The gasoline man's pistol tracked me, but he didn't fire. He wanted the clock to finish the job. 16. I yanked the garden hose from the sink cabinet, twisted the valve hard. Sprinklers already hammered, but I needed flow. Water belched. Hit the duffel, pulled fast. I shoved the drawer, inch by inch, until the bag floated just barely, skin of tension between sinking and glide. 15. From the hall, the upstairs thug steadied his gun on Carlson. I slammed the drawer edge into his shin. He howled, fired wild, plaster exploding over my head. Carlson rolled, teeth bared, dragging himself behind the stair post. 14. The bag sailed, slow and awful, across my drowned floor toward the back hall. If I could get it to the laundry room, drain trap, crawl space, foundation vent, yard, lake. The gasoline man stepped with it, always 10 feet away. Pistol unblinking. His mouth curled. 10. From the pantry, wood cracked. Dad! Alana screamed. The baby, he can't breathe. 9. I shoved harder. The drawer splintered. The duffel slewed toward the hallway threshold and stopped cold on a raised nail. 8. My heart jackhammered. I kicked. It didn't budge. 7. Move. I begged it. Move, you bastard. 6. Outside, a new sound rose, a low, desperate thunder. Not trucks. Not rifles. Sirens. Distant. Many. 5. The gasoline man flicked his eyes toward the window. The upstairs thug cursed. The rifleman outside shouted calls I couldn't parse. 4. I dropped to my knees, fingers scrabbling under the canvas for the nail. If I lifted even a hair. 3. Hands up! A voice boomed from the yard. A real voice. Sheriff, not hired gun. Drop the weapons. 2. The gasoline man's smile died. His thumb moved toward a little black fob in his pocket. 1. The pantry door behind me exploded inward. Alana, wild-eyed, baby clutched her chest, shoulder bleeding from splinters, and as she stumbled into the hall, the duffel finally jerked free and slid. 0. The duffel slid free, bumping along the drowned floor, carried by the current-eyed force from every pipe and sprinkler. Smoke and fire clawed at the rafters. Rifles barked from outside. Sirens howled closer. The gasoline man's face twisted when he realized his leverage was moving away from him. He lunged, pistol aimed square at me. I dove, ramming my shoulder into his ribs. The gun went off, deafening, but the shot buried itself in the soaked drywall. We crashed into the waterlogged floor, grappling like animals, the ticking duffel spinning past us toward the back hall. Carlson, bloody but unbroken, fired from the stairwell. The upstairs thug dropped screaming, his weapon clattering down the steps. Alana stumbled into the hall. Baby pressed her chest, eyes wild. "Dad!" she cried. The gasoline man twisted under me, his hand slipping into his pocket for the detonator fob. I slammed his wrist against the floor again and again until it opened, the black plastic skittering across the water. "You don't get to take this house." I hissed. "Not from me. Not from him." Outside, Spotlights swept through the smoke. The sheriff's cruisers had finally arrived. Orders barked. Gunfire erupted as the riflemen tried to hold their ground. The gasoline man snarled, "Headbutt me," then scrambled toward the fob. My vision blurred, ears ringing, but Alana stepped forward. For the first time all night, she didn't look greedy or cruel. She looked like Marina's daughter. Without hesitating, she kicked the detonator across the floor and leveled the shotgun she dropped earlier. "Enough!" she screamed, voice cracking. "This ends now." The gasoline man froze, chest heaving. His eyes flicked between me, the duffel, the girl. Then, with a guttural roar, he bolted for the front door. A flashbang burst through the window, white light swallowing him whole, and when my vision cleared, deputies swarmed, shouting commands, pinning him to the floor. Silence, except for the baby's wail. I crawled to duffel, hands shaking, every nerve screaming that I'd blow us all sky high. But when I unzipped it, what I found wasn't dynamite, wasn't plastique. It was bricks. Dead weight, wired to the timer with no charge pack. A bluff, a long, hollow laugh tore from my chest. All that terror, all that fire, and it was theater. Just like my haunted house. Carlson sagged against the stair rail, smiling through blood. Guess you weren't the only one bluffing tonight. Deputies rushed him outside. Smoke swirled, sprinklers hissed, and for the first time since Marina died, I felt something close to peace. Alana stood trembling, the baby squalling in her arms. Her lips quivered, her voice soft. "I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't know." I stared at her, my only child, the girl who betrayed me, sold me out, called me worthless. And now she was clutching life like it was the only thing left that mattered. I wanted to rage, to condemn, to cut her off forever. But Marina's voice whispered through the smoke, "Be patient with her, Mert. She's still finding her way." I reached out and touched the baby's damp head. "He doesn't deserve this world you walked me into tonight," I said. "But maybe you can still fix yourself." Tears streaked Alana's face. She nodded, lips pressed tight. Outside, dawn was breaking over the lake, gold bleeding into smoke. Fire crews swarmed the property. Deputies dragged away the men in black, cursing. Carlson was lifted into an ambulance, still cracking jokes through the morphine. I stepped out onto the porch, my boots sinking into mud, my chest heavy but unbowed. The lake glimmered, calm, eternal. The house, scarred, soaked, half-burned, still stood. So did I. For 30 years I'd built for everyone else, bent for everyone else, bled for everyone else. Tonight I finally remembered. Some foundations are worth protecting. I looked at my daughter one last time, baby pressed tight to her chest, and said, "Family doesn't steal from each other. Family fights for each other. Remember that, or you'll lose everything." And with that, I turned toward the sunrise, the lake glimmering like a promise, and walked forward into the smoke.